Welcome everyone. First of all, my kids showed up for Father's Day and look what they got me. So today we're going to be building a turtle trap. I'm going to go down here and get these guys trapped out of the pond and do it humanely and actually take them down to the creek and release them after we've caught them. But I want to try to get them out of the pond so the pond starts clearing up and looks nicer for you guys on the camera. The supplies I have picked up for our turtle trap, I did get some galvanized wire. This is just a small roll of fencing. This is 25 feet in length and we're 28 inches across. And the squares here, I believe, are 2 inches. Now for the trap that I am building, I also have 4 90-degree 3-inch PVC. This is schedule 40. I'm going to make this thing durable enough. I'm not exactly sure what size turtles I have down there and what type. Now if it's the big snapping turtles, you do have to make this thing rigid in order for it to hold up to them. Some of them turtles can go as much as 30-35 pounds. So we're going to build our cage heavy, and this will make our flotation device. I have an 8-foot stick of 3-inch PVC for the sides. And I also picked up some 14-inch zip ties. That's how we're going to fasten this flotation to our basket once we get our basket done. Now there's 2 ways you can do this. You can build your plastic flotation and then build your trap to that, or you can wait until your trap is done and then just simply measure out what you need to cut your pipe at, then glue it together and fasten it to the trap, which is exactly what I'm going to do. You will also need glue and cleaner for the PVC. Again, we're going to put this thing together to where the turtles can't do any damage to it. Now, also on this is a reminder. This is an 1.5 inch lip here, so when you're cutting your pipe out, you can either cut this really close or allow yourself a little bit of room here. This stuff is rigid, so if we get within 1/4 inch, that will allow a little bit of scope if you're building your flotation to the frame. Now if you're going to build to your flotation, then glue this thing together and then just simply measure out what size your basket is. Now, because I don't know exactly how big my turtles are going to be down there in the pond, my outer skin I'm going to go ahead and make out of reinforcement wire for concrete. I'm going to lay this up on the anvil and straighten it out a little bit, but I'm hoping for a box to be about 2 feet wide, 2 feet long, and about 18 inches or so tall. Now you can see I've left the tabs of these wires stuck up because I'm going to use those to help tie this cage together. But I'm going to make this thing pretty heavy duty because those turtles are strong. Specifically, the bigger they get, the tougher they are. Put this fan down just a little bit. Now you can see I'm going to just simply use this wire and tie it right back to itself. And that'll make our skeleton cage, and then we're going to wrap the smaller, thinner gauge wire around this so the turtles can't get through these gaps. And what I'm going to do is where these two are matching, just simply fold it right down across itself like that. Bring that right back up and just wrap it around, and then I'll cut off the excess. You don't have to wrap the whole thing if you don't choose to. Alright, we've got the skeleton done, our frame, and I'll tell you, that's going to be pretty rigid. My small wire, I'm going to start with the top corner and wrap this just like I did with this other wire. Get this started up here square. And then just start using the trim that the factory has left. And I will tie every bit of that together. So what I'm doing is just folding the edges of the wire the way it was shipped and keeping this as my straight edge. Be able to wrap every bit of that around there. And then my next one, I'll get this stretched tight and we'll just wrap it off down here on the bottom of our frame, and then we'll just move right along the outside edge here. Now by trimming this off, this allows me the edges here to wrap around and use these as ties. And then like I said, I ended up with this piece. Now I'm just going to use this and roll right down the edge of this and seam this whole thing shut. Well, I hope those turtles don't have Y pliers. They do, they may get out of this. Like I said, I'm just bending it and just zipping this whole side together. That makes us for a really good edge. And we still have to put our end caps on here too, so we'll be able to tie it together a little more. They can't get out of that now. That has our sides covered. I'm trimming this back. That's leaving me enough wire to tie here again, so that's worked out well. We do have our basket complete. Everything's wired up good. And I gotta say, that really turned out sturdy. And cut two pieces here at 22 1/4. Get this guy laid in here. Try to keep this stuff as square as you can. I can tell you right now, my grandkids is going to get a kick out of us bringing these turtles up out of the pond. Now we will deburr this, that way we don't have any of this plastic that gets into our glue. We get a good tight seal. Gives my two sides now. Now if you've never dealt with PVC before, we're going to keep this square, that way everything lines up for us. And there's a center mark all the way around this 90-degree elbow here. And this black line that they have marking the pipe is also a center line. So what you can do when you start gluing this together is simply line up the seam of the elbow to the lettering on the pipe, and that'll keep everything square for you. We use the cleaner first. It will clean our pipe free of dirt and also activate the plastic. And then once we glue, you will not get that back apart. I mean, it'll actually glue itself tight enough to where a lot of times the pipe will break before the connection does. Into the pipe. Now this stuff does dry pretty quick, so make sure you've allowed yourself plenty of room to work and that you have a general idea how you want this thing to set up for yourself. Because once we apply the glue, we get about 30 seconds before this stuff is actually locked up tight. Make sure you glue all the way around it. Get it spread in there pretty good. Like I said, I'm going right to that line. Got very little time to move that. Okay. Bring that up there so we can see. Center line to the center of the marking. We're going to be good there. Everything is nice and square now. They're glued together. Now if this stuff gives you any trouble, you can also seal this up with silicone. If you have any doubts, or if you had to move something around because it didn't fit where you needed to, just seal the joints up with silicone. Now we're going to take and squeeze this thing onto our basket and then get it zip tied in place. And when you're laying this out, you can have a little bit of extra room on your flotation. There we go. I am going to use a pair of side cutters to nip these tabs off. We want our guests to be comfortable. Now there's an old saying that if you get bit by a turtle, he will lock his jaws until lightning strikes. I don't want to ever have to prove that theory right or wrong. I will tell you this, they are capable of biting a tin can in two, so You know, you don't want these things biting you. They can take your finger right off. All right, there we go. Now we're gonna get something for them to bathe in the sun on. Let's get our top put across this thing. Now I've got my boards laid out loosely up here. And what I'm gonna do is drill some holes in here so we can zip tie these guys. Now I may not have had to have made 4 holes here. This is going to be trial and error until we figure out exactly how well this is going to hold up. I think that may be our best solution, is to that inside hole. Now, it's not only going to be turtles you're going to have around this thing, you could possibly have raccoons and everything else. So it definitely needs to be rigid. I think we can get this in here like this. Tighten these up. Yeah, that might hold just fine. So I did not need these outer holes here unless I want to attach something to it. Now that's going to hold more than enough. And I think what I'm going to do, I have some tabs here on the bottom of these little grills here. And I think I'm going to drill me a couple of holes and zip tie right to the top of that. It will take them a couple of days to get used to this thing sitting down there as well. Just kind of pull down here. Oh yeah. Yeah, they'll be able to do that. Okay. Now by pulling this to the edge here, that's allowing me a larger opening for them to fall into as well. And again, the idea is to get them up here and they'll see this as a spot that they can lay out in the sun. Now I've got that guy tied off as well. Now this also is going to allow me, when I lift this up out of the pond, I can just simply lift this up and dump the turtles out this direction. And nothing's going to be moving around on me. I'm going to say I think that's going to work. Now the last thing I want to put in here, I've got this high-tech bait holder. I've drilled me some holes inside this plastic container here, and I have a tag line, and I am going to put some bait in here. Now chicken liver, any type of like a stewed beef chunk or something like that, turtles love that stuff. So I'm going to actually try to get them in this thing a little quicker than just waiting on them to get out and get some sun. And I'm also going to tie a tag line onto this so I can get that down to the pond and retrieve it anytime I need to. And I will put a stake in the pond to where I can just simply grab a hold of the rope and bring this guy back in. And I'm going to tie this well enough that it won't come off, but loose enough that I can remove it if I need to get this thing in and out of the mule a little easier. So there we go. We've got a completed project here. Now it's blowing up a heck of a storm outside, and I do want to take this down to the pond and show you how it's going to float. But if I don't get that done, I want to thank you for watching. If you're building something like this to trap turtles out of your pond, this was a fun project. We're coming in around $40 to get this thing complete. I will mention that if you can find yourself an old dog kennel or something that has that wire frame to it, you can forego the basket part of this project and then just simply make your flotation, your sun deck, and your elevators for the hotel. I think this is going to work out fine. Again, if I need to add something to the ends of this for them to climb up on. If you've ever really seen turtles in the wild, you'll see 20 or 30 of them at a time resting on a 6 or 7 inch branch that overhangs the river. And You know, so something like this for them to climb up on, this is not a stretch. And again, if you want to add bait, any type of liver, beef chunks, even a can of tuna with a couple holes poked in it, you'd be amazed what you can catch. Now another advantage we have here, on the other side, if you have a snake that gets into this thing, at least he has plenty of room he can crawl on through. We don't want any unwanted guests in our turtle hotel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one.